fun and frugal. Who'd have thought it? The Honda Civic will, as far as I can tell, outlive us all. Now in its 11th generation, there have been 8 Volkswagen Golfs and 4 Ford Focuses, just FYI. Honda has just bagged a 5th place in our annual driver power survey and got 3rd place overall for reliability alone. But as I said, this is the new 11th generation car. It's got new hybrid-only powertrains, it's got a new look, a new, more ergonomic interior. So, does 50 years of hatchback making know-how make this the greatest family car currently on sale? We're about to find out.
Of all the iterations of Civic, it'd be fair to say the designers have taken an evolutionary rather than revolutionary approach to styling here. That's not to say that it doesn't look fresh and up to date, but the general shape and proportions remain largely unchanged. And yet to sum it up on styling alone would be to sell this, the most high-tech of Honda Civics, a little short.
But it's in here where the biggest visual differences can be discerned, certainly over the last one. It's not this massive widescreen buttonless extravaganza that some manufacturers are going for, but, well, I reckon it's all the better for it. The quality of the materials is very good, but it's the general layout that we particularly like. You've got these wide air vents with this kind of chicken wire covering. I quite like that as well. But you also get these big rotary climate controls that operate with a really lovely click. Just really satisfying to use and so much easier than the Golf's touchy, slidey panel. Back to this infotainment screen, it's a 9-inch unit. It's relatively easy to use. The menus are pretty simple. You get all the usual Android and Apple connectivity. It's slightly angled away from the driver, which is a little bit odd given that this is a Japanese car and the Japanese drive on the same side of the road as we do, so that's a bit strange. But yeah, it's angled a little bit away, which is slightly frustrating. And then there's the digital dials. Where the Golf loses points for its fiddly infotainment system, it definitely gains them again with its excellent digital dials. These, well, they're just not as interesting. They could be a little bit more configurable, but I guess they do the job.
The car we have here is probably, in all honesty, the one we'd go for. It's the mid-spec Sport and it brings in most of the kit that you'd want, plus a slightly sportier look. The range starts with elegance trim. Those cars get climate control, heated seats and a reversing camera, as well as the 9-inch screen with sat-nav and smartphone connectivity. Sport cars like ours have larger 18-inch wheels and wireless phone charging, along with artificial leather upholstery and gloss black trim. The top spec Advance has different wheels, a 12-speaker Bose sound system and a panoramic sunroof. But that's your lot. Unlike some rival cars, there really aren't any options to pick from. Full specs can be found at carbuyer.co.uk.
Typically, hybrids tend to be easy to drive around town, but not much cop when it comes to tight, twisting country roads. But Honda has worked on this for the latest Civic and actually has produced a car that is much better than most of its rivals to drive. Fun and frugal, who'd have thought it? It rides pretty well. The Civic isolates you from most of the worst lumps and bumps, and it handles decently as well. Honda says there's even a mode that senses when you're on a tight and twisting road, and it sets up the car accordingly, so it primes the engine and the electric motor for maximum response. And yeah, it seems to work pretty well, but it's nothing, I don't know, out of the ordinary. But perhaps I'm just not driving it hard or fast enough. There's loads of grip at the front of the car, and it just reassures you, it just fills you with confidence. It's great in slippery, wintry conditions, and there's a Type R on the way too. That should be exciting. One thing we will say, and we say this with the caveat that we've not tried a car on the smallest 17-inch wheels, is that there is quite a bit of road noise at motorway speeds or on rougher surfaces. One thing with hybrids and electric cars is they tend to be really refined. So while it's not a deal breaker, it is a shame and a small blot on the Civic's otherwise really impressive score sheet.
As we said at the start, the standard Civic is hybrid only, Type R excluded of course. But don't let that put you off, it's a punchy powertrain, a 2-litre petrol-electric hybrid with 181 brake horsepower. It will do 0 to 62 in a more than respectable 7.9 seconds.
That makes it feel pretty brisk off the line. It's not the most tuneful setup, but it's certainly not lacking in performance, and that's not something that we could say of the less powerful hybrid setup in the latest HR-V. There are different driving modes, including eco, normal, sport and individual, although we found in practice just letting the car decide how best to use the engine and the electric motor tends to work best. Electric only driving is possible for short periods of time, which is great when you're stuck in traffic or driving through city parking, for example. The regenerative brakes, you can operate those via the paddles on the steering wheel. It's not particularly strong, it's noticeable, but it doesn't offer the same kind of one pedal driving you get in EVs, for example. The new Honda Civic Type R will offer much more performance and fun, but even as a hybrid, it still has a good blend of comfort and driver enjoyment. It is a great starting point.
Being a hybrid, the Civic is pretty economical. Its lack of pure electric or plug-in powertrains probably means it won't be a company car driver's first choice. But private buyers looking to lower their monthly bills should find the Honda reasonably cheap to run. Nowhere to charge? No worries. The Civic will officially do 56.5 miles per gallon with CO2 emissions of 110 grams per kilometre. But sorry sports fans, the Type R won't come close.
For years now, practicality has been a Honda strong point, and while the Civic perhaps doesn't lead the pack like it once did, there's enough room in here to get relatively comfortable. The length and wheelbase means that knee room is pretty good. The sloping roofline, however, does mean that headroom isn't fantastic. I'm just over 6 foot tall and the very back of my head is brushing the ceiling. If you're used to an SUV, then this kind of car could take some adjustment.
Fold the Civic seats and you'll find 1,220 litres of boot space. Good, but again, not exceptional. More frustrating might be the intrusions from the wheel arches or the step in the floor. A pain if and when you're loading longer or heavier items. What is exceptional though is this fantastic parcel shelf carried over from the old car. Compact, lightweight, why don't more cars have these? With the seats in place, you've got 410 litres, 30 litres bigger than the Golf we keep mentioning, and almost 100 litres up on the more powerful of the two Toyota Corollas. But it simply can't compete with the class champ. A Skoda Octavia boasts 590 litres all in.
Otherwise though, there's not really that much to write home about. There's a couple of USB ports down here, but there's no 3-zone climate control, and whisper it, no magic seats. For years, Hondas like the HR-V or the Jazz have sold on this feature alone. Perhaps the Civic is aimed at a younger audience, I don't know, but for some people that potentially could be a bit of a deal breaker. And on that not so positive note, should we do some deal makers and deal breakers?
The new Civic is the best yet when it comes to driving. The hybrid powertrain does little to hold it back, and the handling is fantastic. Okay, the infotainment system is neither here nor there, but the layout of the dashboard, the chunky climate controls, the ergonomics are fantastic, and the driving position is spot on. And then there's the running costs. Sure, there's no EV or PHEV, but those without the ability to charge at home could seriously lower their bills by opting for a hybrid like this. Fuel economy, especially around town, is excellent. It seems harsh listing practicality as a negative because the Civic keeps pace with most cars in this class in this regard. But there are a few small failings like that step in the boot floor and the sloping roofline, which make a stronger case for a bigger, bulkier SUV. The hybrid is frugal, but as we only just mentioned, there's no electric or plug-in hybrid variant. Choice is limited. So if you don't want a hybrid, unfortunately, you won't want a Civic.
There are certain elements of this new Honda Civic that we absolutely love. It's great to drive, and that one engine option is a good one. But that's the thing, there's only one engine option and it's a hybrid. And in a world where we're being pushed towards plug-ins and fully electric vehicles, there's a risk that this car, new for 2022, is going to get left behind. And that's a shame because quality inside is really good. The dashboard layout is fantastic. The driving position is spot on. And actually, as your only car, as a family car, it functions brilliantly. The new Honda Civic, we really like it. We just don't quite love it.
If you like this video, then why not watch our review of the latest Volkswagen Golf or our Family Cars playlist. Thanks for watching.